Welcome to the Big Fellas Podcast, where we chop it up about all things past, present, and future about the game of basketball. Where facts, stats, and context reign supreme.
That is blasphemous!
Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. Get ready to learn from players, coaches, and fans from all levels of the game and see the court in a brand new way. And now, fresh off the sidelines, here's your host, John Hartophilus.
What it do, fellas, and welcome to the Big Fellas Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, JH, coming to you from New York City, the mecca of basketball. Today, right before a pivotal Game 4 of the 2020 NBA Finals, I'm excited to be joined by Ernest Scott, assistant coach for the South Bay Lakers. Coach Scott has both played and coached across all walks of the basketball world, crossing paths with some unlikely legends of the game along the way. We've got a good one in store for you today, fellas. Episode number 19, Ernest Scott, South Bay Lakers. Coach Ernest, what's going on?
Man, glad to be here, John. I appreciate you having me on, brother.
I appreciate you coming on. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today, and I think our listeners are going to learn a lot about it. So just real quick, just to start off, if you could walk us through your basketball journey and just kind of the steps you took through that journey.
Sure. So I was born in Greenburgh, New York, which is up in Westchester County, just outside of New York City. Kind of came up there through the community center, played ball, went to Woodlands High School in that area, then moved to the Atlanta area in 10th grade. Went to Marietta High School. It was crazy. It was like going from high school to college to school. Woodlands, we had like 400 or 500 kids. Going to Marietta, where there were over 2,000. 99, which was my junior year, we won the state championship in Georgia. We had a cat named Ezra Williams, who was, to me, one of the more underrated guys in the history of like Georgia high school basketball. But, he carried us, man. He was a big time player. We won state. My senior year, we had a pretty good year, lost in the Elite Eight. And, there wasn't really much for me. I started a handful of games in high school. I wasn't by no means a star or anything like that. Had a couple of JUCOs, couple of Division II schools, but I was blessed. I grew a little bit. I ended up being like 6'6" by my senior year. Got an opportunity to try out at a Division II school, Valdosta State, down in South Georgia. The head coach was at the College of Charleston. He had recruited somebody else that I went to high school with, and when he got the job in Valdosta, I got the opportunity to go down there and worked out, did really well, got a scholarship, and just worked my way up, man. 4 years, eventually kind of went from being like the 12th, 13th man on the roster to being first team all conference, team MVP. We were 24-2 regular season my senior year. And, it was a great ride down there. And after that, I was just kind of at a crossroads. I didn't know if I had an opportunity to go work for Bank of America. I had an opportunity to get into coaching or, try to pursue the basketball. I did a couple of exposure camps, man. I remember my senior year, I would go up to the press box and just cut tapes. Back then it was so hard to send, you were sending VHS and not even DVDs, back in 2004. So just cutting tapes, man. I went on the Eurobasket.com and like sent emails out to like every coach, every team I could find. A handful of them hit me back. I went up, made cut my own highlight tapes, about 12, 13 VHSs, sent them out to coaches in Europe, agents in Europe, here, whoever responded to me, and got a hit. Went to a couple of exposure camps. There was one in particular up in Richmond at VCU at the time, which was really good, had some really good players. And a scout in Germany saw me, referenced me to an agent, and I ended up playing in second division Germany, out of college, got the opportunity, and just worked my way up. Was there for 3 or 4 months, had some stuff going on back home. I had to leave. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. I ended up going to Luxembourg. I got another opportunity, played in Luxembourg, it's a great country. It's, it's funny, the foreigners, at that time, there was only one American per team, and you were the professional. Everybody else were like teachers and bankers and stuff. But, it was a nice, small, it was really a city, like a city kind of country, like a municipality. But, they love ball. It was one of the few countries where basketball was kind of the national sport. So, played there, had a big year, ended up in Switzerland the next year, did well, then went on to play first division Germany my third year. Then after that, man, played in this league called the USBL. It's a defunct kind of minor league. And, man, so I played for the Oklahoma Storm. our head coach was Brian Gates, who was an assistant with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and our assistant coach was Nick Nurse. And this was the summer of 2006. Yeah, he was the assistant. There was another team called the Dodge City Legend that had Dale Osborne. He was the head coach. He's an assistant with the Portland Trail Blazers. The team, the Nebraska Cranes, who won the championship, had a coach, Brian Walsh, who's actually with me in South Bay right now. He's one of my fellow assistant coaches there. So, I mean, just, after that, kind of playing for Coach Gates and Coach Nurse. Coach Gates got an opportunity with the Idaho Stampede in the D League back then. Gave me an opportunity to come up, did the open tryout thing. This is back when you're doing the 3 tiers, $13,000, $19,000, and $25,500. Coming in the league, nobody really ever heard of me. So I did the C contract, man. 13 grand for the season, man, living in Boise, Idaho, freezing my butt off, practicing in a Boys and Girls Club. And, just on that journey, was there for the first year. They won the championship. I actually left. I played 42 games that first year and left. I got an opportunity to go to New Zealand and make some more money. I'm sure we'll kind of get into the dynamics of the D League, especially at that time. But we had a bunch of guys get sent down from the NBA, and it was interesting. It was an interesting time. So after New Zealand, came back, got drafted again by the Stampede. In the second round of the draft, I didn't have to do a tryout, so I actually got a B contract, which was 19 grand. Played, and then it was kind of the same story. Had a bunch of guys get sent down again, so I got an opportunity. I got traded to the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and I was able to establish myself as one of the better shooters in the league. I went to the 3-point contest. That's one of the things they were doing back then. They used to include the D League and the NBA All-Star Weekend. They would have like a D League slam dunk contest, and I mean, it was legit. Like James White was in it, Brent Petway. Like it was like almost NBA level, the dunk contest. So did a 3-point contest, lost in the finals to Blake Ahern that year. Finished the year with RGV. Ended up going back when the Rockets took over. They were the first team to do the hybrid deal. At that time, the Lakers had owned the Defenders. They outright owned the team, and the Spurs owned the Austin Toros. And the NBA team outright owned it. They did everything. But this hybrid deal was where the Rockets did all the basketball operations, and the Vipers had a local ownership down in South Texas, and they handled all the tickets and all that type of stuff. So it was something new. And played for Chris Finch, who was associate head coach of the Pelicans, and he's up for the Rockets job right now. So played for him. We won the championship. I kind of knew that the NBA dream was probably over for 6-7 stretch 4. Draymond hadn't come around yet, so that wasn't really something that was in vogue. I was probably about 5 years too early. So then I went and played in Greece, man. Played in Peristeri. Had a really good first year. Went to the playoffs and was kind of on like the all newcomers team out there. Re-signed, and then that's kind of when stuff hit the fan out there. The economy went under in Greece. So then it was from there. I went and played with another team, Olympiakos, that was in Athens. And I got to see Giannis, like when he was playing in second division. It's funny, the team, one of my teammates, a young kid, was like, yo, there's this dude, you got to see this African like kid, man, that's like 16 and like 6'9", and his arms touching the floor. And man, it was Giannis. I remember watching one of his games, and it wasn't fair. But he was really raw at the time, man. But you could tell, like, if he figured it out, man, he was going to be just special. And he was. So after that, man, went to Argentina. Actually, I went back to Reno, to the D League, played in Reno for like a month, then New Zealand, then Argentina, was there for a few months, Venezuela. And then I went back to Greece when kind of things got a little better with the economy. Was in Kolossos, had a really good run down there. Then after that, got my opportunity to play in the ACB with Fuenlabrada. Got to play against Luka. A lot of, Sadoronsky, Abrines, this dude, Kuzminskis, who played in the NBA for like a little bit, went to the Knicks the next year. The Herman Gomez brothers, they were both still in Spain. So a lot of like NBA guys were in the league at that time. We had a great year in Fuenlabrada, played in made the playoffs, made the Copa del Rey, beat Real Madrid that year at home. So it was like one of the better years. And then after I went and played in Limoges, spent about 4 months in Limoges out in France, historical club, a really good coach. This guy Dule Vujosevic, who was like from Partizan, but he had some health problems at the time. But man, he just knew a ton, man. He was it's great to play for. Had an injury, messed up my plantar fascia, and then it was just kind of I was done by the time I was 37 years old, and just kind of moved on and just went on my coaching journey.
That's awesome. There's obviously so much to unpack there. I mean, really,
Yeah.
there's so much, and there's so much that I didn't know from reading up on you before this. I have my mic muted while you're talking just to make sure that there's no feedback. But when you said Nick Nurse, I was like, oh my, okay, my eyes popped. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah. What was that like, kind of just being coached by someone that in the last few years, he's kind of just gone from complete no name to coach of the year and one of the best coaches in the league? Like, what was that like for you even back then? Like, did you see it coming?
Man, not at that level. But I will say, like, after that, playing against him in the G League, or the D League at the time, when he was with Iowa, and when they started winning and everything, you kind of were like, wow, like, yeah, he's on to something. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna be all right. But the crazy thing, he's pretty much the same dude, man. You know what I mean? And that's what I, like most about him and admire most about him is like he never really changed. He's a basketball lifer, man. He would just be, him and Coach Gates were just in the apartment all the time, man, just watching basketball, videos, film, different stuff. He's a lifer, man, and he played the game. He was a really good player, and he was like a player coach for a long time out in I think he was in the UK for a while doing that, and just kind of grew. But he definitely had a mind for it, man, and he wasn't afraid. Like he would try anything. We would try anything. So once it makes sense now. His creativity is amazing, but the biggest thing is like his fearlessness and his trust in players, and then just his ability to kind of throw caution to the wind and trust his instincts and trust his work. So I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled for him.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, he's definitely, when you say fearless, he's not afraid to throw out a boxing one in the NBA finals, and everyone's like, why is he doing that? And then it works. Because
Right.
he's not afraid to do that kind of stuff. And the other thing I thought was really cool was when you brought up your time in Greece for Betty Steady and Kolossos. So I'm from Greece. For those that can't see, there's a Giannis jersey behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had other people on the show too that have said some pretty funny things about like the one word that always got them around everywhere. Can you kind of tell what I'm trying to say?
The one word. Well, the one word I heard all the time was Malaka. I heard a lot of bad other bad words that I maybe could say on here, but if people wouldn't understand. But yeah, I learned a lot of bad words over there. That's for sure. Yeah, crazy fans, but most craziest, passionate fans ever in the world. They're really like basketball fans and basketball like lifers. If they can get to a Panathinaikos Olympiakos game, one time in their lives, man, that, especially at Owaka, it's the Olympiacos stadium's a little harder, but if you can get into Owaka, the Olympic stadium where they had the Athens Olympics, and go to one of those games, that was one of the best. I went a few times, but in particular, it was 2012, and then I got to go to the EuroLeague quarterfinal against Barcelona. The last year Panathinaikos won it, which was 11, and that's when Barcelona had Rubio still. That was like the last year before Rubio came to the NBA. They had Joe Ingles, Allen Anderson. They were loaded, and Panathinaikos won. But that was, people were sitting like if a fire would have broke out, everybody would have died. Because it was probably, I think it's like built for like 18,000. It had to be 22,000 people in there. People were sitting on the aisles and everything. It was crazy.
That's hilarious. And no, yeah, that was a really good team. That was the year with Diamantidis, and when Nick Kalaitis was like, he must have been like 22, 23. Was really
yeah, he was fresh out because he was there, and then his little brother was with Kolossos, the one that went to St. Joe's.
Oh, wow.
I think. Yeah, he was playing. But yeah, man, and then like Mike Batiste, Drew Nicholas, were the Americans. Gosh, they had Romain Sato. They were loaded, man, absolutely loaded.
No, definitely. And when you're talking about the energy, we went to the Panathinaikos Barcelona game. I think it was last year. The trip last year was end of April. Yeah. We went to, it was like one of the last games of the year, and it had a lot to do with their playoff seeding. And I remember the funniest thing was one of the other fathers on the trip. So I was coaching this year. Was one of the other fathers was seeing all these, like, whether it was the flares or the chanting, and he was like, "Is this stuff legal? Like, how does this happen?" It was funny. Definitely a good time. And like the energy is just completely unmatched by anything. You would never see that at an NBA arena. And it's probably a good thing
Right.
You'll never see that in an NBA arena, but it's also just an experience that,
Right.
it's really unique to Greece.
Yeah, for sure. I got a funny one, but Panionios, they were like Euro Cup. They were pretty good, but they had their gym was like there were bleachers on one side, like it was kind of like a big high school gym with bleachers on one side, and then like the other side was just the benches and the scores table, nothing, just a wall. So contested game, I hit a three to basically win it. Like we were up one, end of the shot clock. It was like maybe 6 or 7 seconds. I hit a corner three. We win the game, and to get into the locker room, you got to walk under their fan, like their fan club.
Oh, that's tough. That's
So I'm standing there, like kind of dapping up my guys, and we're kind of celebrating. And then, like, I just like a couple of I see the Greek guys like pulling their shirts over their heads, like in their shooting shirts. And the coach just like grabs me, and they had like one of it was the first little tunnel thing I've ever seen, where they have the tunnel that they'll pull out, and it kind of like extends like out onto the court. And then next thing, just like Sprite bottles and batteries, and they're just throwing coins, just like pelting us and just like we're trying to run like off the court. And it was the craziest thing, dude.
So it's not, yeah, I've heard a lot of stories like that from friends of mine that play over there. And it's always, it's crazy to think about, because like you would just never deal with that or see that here.
Right.
Yeah. It's awesome about your playing career. And then once you kind of decided to stop playing, what kind of sparked that coaching journey for you?
I love the game. And it was something I was interested in, something I thought I'd be good at. A lot of people I played for and coaches I played for thought, man, well, look at me, one day you're going to be a coach. One day you should really, see about doing it. So, it was something I felt like I could do well and pursue at a high level. So yeah, it just kind of felt like a natural fit.
No, awesome. And then can you explain kind of the skill factory? I saw that on your profile. I wasn't really sure what it was. And it looked really cool.
Man, the skill factory, it's grown like, man, it's grown like a weed in Atlanta. It's kind of along the like Rico Hines, like how he does it out in LA, with his deal. Luke has his spot down in Houston, and it's kind of becoming the Atlanta spot where NBA guys go and work out. It just kind of started as like a training deal, for basketball. We had a couple of travel ball teams, and then we had a summer where like James Harden comes through, and it was like a lot of local pros, guys that were playing overseas. And as a player, I would just go there and work out, and they had good runs. It was tough to find really good organized runs in Atlanta with referees. And the thing was, it was like that's where everybody in the NBA went in the summer. Like everybody came to Atlanta. But it was hard to find, places to really get a good run. So the skill factory really filled that void. And it just kind of started with, James Harden and John Wall. And then you had like a lot of the Hawks at the time. Those guys were coming through, from Kyle Korver to, Taurean Prince to Ken Bazemore when he was in. And, even now recently this summer, and it's funny, I can't go now because they've got a lot of pre-draft guys. But even having young guys like Malik Beasley was going there before people really heard of him. Wendell Carter before he went to Duke, that was a place, he got his game right. So a few young guys panned out, and a few, NBA guys came, and then now it's just become a really big deal. They've had like Denny Avija there, Maladone, the French guy, and a bunch of other like probable lottery picks, that have come through and worked out there in the summer. The guy, Jeremiah Boswell, who runs it is a great basketball guy, but he's probably one of the best people like around. He does a ton of stuff for the NBA, from Basketball Without Borders to some of their international academies. Like I know he's been like to India, and he's been down to Brazil, and they got a great prep program. So it's grown, man. It's really a monster down here in Atlanta. But they really gave me an opportunity to coach travel ball. They had a really good relationship. I got an opportunity to go with Shenzhen, the Shenzhen Leopards of the Chinese Basketball Association, through them. I got to go out there for a summer. I worked with one of their guys, like kind of after I was done. It was like February, March. I wasn't really sure I was kind of between my injury and do I want to go back and play, or do I want to, am I going to hang it up? And went up there and got to work with, they had a couple of Chinese guys come, and they felt like the kid guy improved. Worked with them for like, 6 weeks. And then they invited me to come through the summer. So I got to coach. They had they do what's called like the China Games, which is kind of like a Goodwill Games type deal that we do here in the States. And it was an under-19 team, and we ended up winning it. We won the China games, and I had an opportunity to stay and coach the CBA team, but my son was being born at the time, and they wanted me to make the commitment, and I wasn't. I was trying to get home and be with my newborn son, so it didn't really work out. But it was just great, and yeah. So I mean, the Skill Factory is really, they're really top of the market here in Atlanta when it comes to like just a great pro run and a great place for guys to work out.
So then once you transitioned to the G League, what was that kind of like for you, going from a place where you kind of had a more set roster to the G League where everything's constantly changing?
Well, playing in the G League helped. It definitely helped prepare me for, the roster turnover. And that's one of the more kind of difficult or underrated things when it comes to a G League, when you look at a team like, well, what's going on? And, our season kind of said it all. We went 0 for January, we had Gary Payton II, excuse me, at the beginning of the year. We had Demetrius Jackson, who ended up leaving. We had a bunch of guys. We had guys who left, guys who got hurt, didn't win a game in January, pick up Pierre Jackson and Wayne Selden, and then Coach Kobe gets Coach of the Month in February. So it's like that with a lot of teams, man. It's, that continuity of not only going up and down, guys going up and down from the NBA, but injuries and guys coming in, guys getting bought out. It's the constant thing. And as a player, when I went through that, I didn't handle it as well as I wish I had. And just coming from it from that perspective, it just kind of gave me a better feel and a better understanding for really how to communicate to the guys that are on your roster. Like, hey, just ride the storm. You'll get your chance. Things, it changes so much. You just got to be ready.
Oh, no, of course. And it's like when you talk about how you can have a winless January and then your coach wins Coach of the Year in February. That's really interesting, because that really is almost impossible to happen in any other league. Right. And I was actually at the when you guys played the Long Island Nets on January 22nd. I went to that game. Yeah, it was a rough game. I didn't want. But I was there because I went with the Greek league to go watch Kostas play. So we all went. We pulled to the game, and one of my really good friends actually knows Kostas from Greece. So when he walked in, he said hi to him. Kostas came to us afterwards. So we had a great time. But I mean, I know that game was really rough because it was in a rough stretch. And then it was also cool. Like after the game, I normally don't ask for pictures with a lot of players, but Andre Ingram was out, and I really so I didn't make the basketball team at Xavier High School my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and I made it as a senior. Mm-hmm. And then right around that time is when he had his huge explosion with, against the Rockets, when he scored, I think it was 22 points. And he's just a guy that embodies hard work. I don't know if you want to talk about like your relationship with him and how you've kind of seen that.
Yeah, man, Dre's another one. He's such an amazing dude, man. He is one of the best people in the G. I'm sure one day they'll have to name some type of award after him, man. But like it's crazy to like have somebody that I played against as a player, and back when they had the Utah Flash, he's the same. He's the same type of player, and I mean that in a great way. Like he's still in great shape. He takes care of himself, man. He works his behind off. Obviously he's so valuable as a shooter, but just his experience, his professionalism, and just the type of person and teammate he is, man. You just really couldn't ask for anybody better. That's one of the great moments, for South Bay or, LA Defenders, or, just in the history of the club, for him to have that opportunity and to go out there on national TV and light it up the way he did, man. It couldn't have happened to a better dude. He definitely deserved all of that and more.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it was a beautiful moment. I remember like the next day on Instagram, I saw so many like mixes to it, and it was beautiful. And then also with Costa, kind of, it was coaching him this year when he was on a two-way, going in and out, but then also, contributing for you guys as much as he could as well.
Man, Kostas has so much like potential and upside, man. I mean, 6'11", just lanky, athletic, man. And he's pretty skilled, and he's gotten so much better. It was funny. We sat down as a staff and watched him when he was with the Texas Legends the year before, and just how far he's come, in a year, like how much better he's gotten, all the things he was able to do. And, man, he works his butt off. There's a few times I remember like being in the facility late, like doing work, and, getting ready to leave or going up to the window, and he's out there on the gun shooting. You know, he's out there by himself 10:30, 11 at night, like working on his game and stuff. So you know, he gets all the credit, man. You know, he puts in work. He's steadily improving, and you know, if he continues, man, he's on the path where he can have an impact in the league. You know what I mean? I know everybody always, well, you're not your brother or you're not this, but you know, he's his own player, and you know, he has an opportunity to make his own name in the league, and man, he can, you know, he really has potential to be pretty good, man. If he just continues on the path he's on and continues with his work ethic, you know, I was really impressed by that. He definitely has a hunger and he wants to be good, and that's half the battle in this thing.
I feel like it's becoming a theme where there's a lot of hard workers or grinders down there in South Bay, which is just great to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Transitioning from that to the what's your relationship kind of like as a affiliate team with the pro team and the Lakers, and like what they're doing now in the bubble? You guys kind of as coaches involved in that at all? Is there kind of a connection between the two, or are they kind of more separate?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. We're not really doing much with the bubble. You know, it's kind of them. They're limited on staff anyway that can be there. You know, we're kind of doing more from the scouting side and, you know, kind of taking that off of those guys' table and letting them focus on getting this championship this year. You know, so that's been cool. It's been a learning experience, you know, tedious looking at a lot of film over a lot of prospects. But in terms of like what they're doing and game planning and stuff like that, you know, they're doing their thing. They're doing a hell of a job. You know, Coach Vogel and those guys. And in terms of our relationship, though, like pre-bubble and just, man, I couldn't ask for anything more. For us to be in the facility, our offices are literally next door. You know, we're able to go down. They practice before us, so we're able to go down and watch their practices and be around those guys. I've learned so much from Phil Handy. You know, he's the best player development guy in the league. If somebody wants to argue with me, that's fine, but for my money, he's the best player development guy. I mean, Kyrie Irving, Siakam, Van Vliet, the guys he's worked with, obviously LeBron, Kobe. You know, his book of work, you know, speaks for itself. And he was so great. He was open to share knowledge. All the coaches, Jay Kidd, Coach Penberthy, Miles Simon, Q Crawford, you know, Coach Hollins, all those guys were just amazing. And, you know, Coach Vogel was so awesome. In the preseason, we got to sit in on their meetings and just kind of be there, soak it up, take it all in. And then just the involvement with having a guy like Taylor Horton Tucker, who was, you know, the second round draft pick, but was with us most of the year, and to see him kind of do his thing in the bubble a little bit, you know, get that run against Houston and do his thing, you know, was awesome. But in terms of like a situation to learn, you know, some teams really don't have their G League staff around like that. Some coaches would never have their G League staff in meetings and stuff like that, or around the practices. You know, some staffs are in different cities. Some G League teams obviously are in different cities than their NBA team. So for us to be there, not only be in the same city, but the same facility, our offices right there, our practice facility right there, and be able to soak that all in, that's invaluable, man. I mean, I feel like I've got 3 years worth of learning and 3 years worth of information in 1 year for real.
That's fantastic. And it's obviously awesome you guys are able to have that relationship. And yeah, that's exactly what I meant, was in terms of how, you know, the scouting responsibilities have been passed off onto you guys, and they're just all hell bent on winning that championship, which is just great. So just to wrap up, just a little bit more of these kind of insightful questions. Can you kind of what's been the highlight of your short time coaching in just this 1 year? What's kind of been that highlight for you? And then at the same time, the most difficult thing for you to overcome it during that same year?
Man, the highlight was February, the coach of the month thing. From where we were, I mean, I remember like being on the plane home. Actually, no, I'll say that was a rough flight from where we flew back from Long Island after we basically had 4 guys, because at the end of that game, we finished with Jordan Caroline had to stay on the court because he tore his groin with about 3 minutes left. He had to stay on the floor.
Oh, really? I didn't know he was hurt. I remember he fell. I didn't know he was hurt.
Yeah. And that's crazy. We left. That was the end of a 4-game trip where we left with 10 players. We lost Travis Ware tore his ACL. Andre Ingram tore his pec. Jordan tore his groin. Davis Stockton hurt his hamstring. Like we lost like our whole.
Wow.
Yeah, we lost a lot of guys. So we basically came back on the plane with 4 healthy players, and then we just got Wayne Selden, who met us in Long Island, but obviously he didn't play. So I remember we got back, and him and Pierre joined us, and we were playing Fort Wayne. And you kind of felt like, okay, we're finally back home. We got a couple of guys, and then like Fort Wayne just blew our doors off. And I just remember being so demoralized, like, God, like, are we gonna win again? Like, are we gonna win another game? It was rough, man. But coming back from that in February, and Pierre got right, and he was awesome. Wayne Selden, and he won us a game up in Iowa, and just we finally got Devontae Kaycock back. When he got healthy, he went back to being his 20 and 10 guy. And then we got David Stockton healthy. Like, we finally, that's what was so frustrating about about COVID, was that we finally had kind of saw, like, because we felt like coming into the season, we had a really good team, and we felt like we had a chance to really, really do something. But we were kind of like, right, I think we had to pretty much win out to make the playoffs. We had dug ourselves in such a hole, but it was just really satisfying to see, like, dang, we really were pretty good.
Oh yeah, you guys definitely turned it around big time, and it's obviously upsetting to have it ended by COVID, but just knowing that you guys were able to do that, just have that turnaround is obviously just really cool.
Yeah.
So just the last thing I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you give to young aspiring coaches hoping to be in a position like yours one day?
Man, your network. Your network is number one, man. That's the biggest thing. You obviously got to know what you're doing. Jay Hernandez, who's an assistant with the Charlotte Hornets. He's a New York guy, went to Hofstra from Long Island. He always said it best, like, your knowledge and hard work, that's the price of admission. Like, everybody has that. But you got to have your network, man. After I came home from China, I kind of missed a year, just being out of sight and out of mind. That was 17. Then the next year, I had kind of met Taylor Jenkins. He played, he coached the Austin Toros, the Spurs affiliate before. So he was in Atlanta. I kind of had a relationship with Darvin Ham. I knew him a little bit, and those guys were in Atlanta at the time. So I got to come around and kind of talk with them, and I thought I was going to have an opportunity to get in the video room. And then, like, I remember, I'll never forget, I'm just chilling, see on Sports Center that Coach Bud was leaving the Hawks and going to the Bucks and taking the staff with him. So, of course, my opportunity to get in their video room, because I wasn't going up to Milwaukee with him. So, kind of missed on that. And just had to get out. Just had to get out and meet folks and network and go, man. It's such a tragedy that the NBA Summer League, because that's so huge. I tell you, if you can get to the NBA Summer League, if you can get the showcase is cool, All-Star Weekend is cool, but the Summer League is like a job fair. It's really like a basketball coach's job fair. To get out there to network, you have everybody between Cox Pavilion and Thomas and Mack. It's really one building, and everyone is there. GMs, director of basketball operations, VPs, not just here, but of hundreds of overseas teams. Everybody's at Summer League. All the G League, executives, coaches, and everything. So, like, make that happen. Like, I don't care if you got to take a train to Vegas. Like, make that happen. Get to Vegas. When this thing starts again. Once we kind of get back to normal, hopefully next summer we'll have a summer league and everything. But that was huge, man. So I had 2018. I was selling cars, man. I was working at a Chevy dealership. I got a family to take care of, and coaching AAU. At the Skill Factory, coaching my son's team, his travel team. Doing kind of training on the side, and 19. I go to summer league. I got to sit down. I reconnected with Kobe Carl. Me and him played in Idaho together. We were teammates. Reconnected with him. Hadn't seen him probably since we played together. But we kind of would give a WhatsApp message every now and then. And that's another thing. Like, never. And not just like saying, hey man, can you get me a job? Like, just say, what's up, man? How's the family? Like, that stuff matters. That stuff goes a long way, man. Like, really having a genuine, like, caring about somebody, you know what I mean? And establishing a genuine relationship. So that's, established, like, real, because the whole cliche is, in the NBA and the G League, you hire who you know or who someone you know recommends. So it's all through your network, and obviously you have to know what you're doing, but you got to build that network. I was able to build some connections down in Houston. I thought I was going to be, with the Vipers. It was crazy. I went down there, spent a few days down there, with their staff and everything. And Coach Mahmoud got hired, and it's crazy, man. I was in DC. I was actually, I started caddying just so I had the flexibility. Caddying was something I did when I was a kid. And it just gave me the flexibility to work. And then if I needed to leave and go to summer league or leave to go to an interview, I could. I went down to Houston. I called Kobe Carl for advice. Hey man, I'm going down here. What should I expect? What should I know? What do you think? What would you ask, when you're looking to bring in an assistant? He helped me out. And then, I did pretty well down there. The next week I get a call from Kobe. Hey man, we have an opening. Would you want to come out? And so I did. I came back a couple days later. I was on the course. I missed the call from Mahmoud from RGV, who was calling to basically talk about the job. I missed the call, tried to call him back. I remember I left the course, called Mahmoud, missed him, went to a Chick-fil-A. And when I was leaving Chick-fil-A, Kobe Carr calls me and offered me the job in LA. And that's kind of how it worked. And then Mahmoud called me back 30 minutes later, hey, I'm yo, I just got off the phone with South Bay, and I got the job. So just stay in it, build your network, because it's such a relationship business. Your preparation and hard work will take care of yourself, but it's such a relationship business. That's how it worked for me, and that's really how it works for most guys. But stay in and do what you got to do, because like I said, for 2 years, I went from having nothing to having 2 job offers in 30 minutes. You know what I mean? That's how you never know when it's going to come. And it's not like I woke up that morning, I know this is going to happen. It was just like any other day. And then all of a sudden, now I had 2. Yeah. just stay in it and build your network, build genuine, real relationships, actually giving a damn about someone. And not just what you can do for me relationships, because people can tell the difference. And if you're gonna spend 6 months, really in the trenches with these guys every day, you're gonna see them more than your family. So it's got to be more than just it's got to be more than just what you know about how to guard a pick and roll.
No, definitely. And that's such an amazing story about how you weren't getting a lot of offers, and then all of a sudden you get 2 in 30 minutes, and how that just happens. And the advice you're giving about the summer league is fantastic, because when I went to a scout school event in December in New York City, it was at the Barclays Center. I learned a lot there. I was the youngest person in the room, and I really built a good network just talking to people. And the biggest thing they said was, we have an event in July at the summer league. You should all sign up. And that's the first thing I did, was after I had such a great time at that event, sign up for the summer league one. That's obviously since been canceled, but that's definitely fantastic advice on just keeping building that network.
No, but even what you're doing with your network, building your network. I don't know if you're going to go into journalism with it, or if you eventually do want to coach, or go into TV or whatever, to have these guys you're talking to now. Hell, hopefully in 5 years I'll be up on someone's bench, or 10 years I'll be a head coach, and maybe you'll be with Skip Bayless or something like that. If that's what you want to do, or you'll be writing for The Athletic, or be like the next Woj or Shams Shinari or one of those guys. This is how it starts. This is how your network starts. You get with 100 coaches, a few of them are going to make it. A few of them are going to turn out to, be somebody, or a few of them are going to end up being an executive. One of us may be a GM, a couple of us might be head coaches one day, and that's somebody. Hey, yeah, I remember John. I remember you. I was on your show a few years ago, and such and such. So yeah, man, building your network for whatever you want to do. It's really dope.
Definitely, that's the dream. And Coach Ernest, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I really think our listeners got a lot out of this and learned a lot. So I really thank you.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, dude. Anytime.
Thanks for listening to the Big Fellas Podcast. Check us out on all major social media platforms at Big Fellas Pod to join the chop up. You can also listen to us on every podcast platform on the planet. Stay tuned for the next episode, Big Fellas.